So today we are looking at the Tao Te Ching, um, chapters 13 through 16. And I'm going to be reading again from the Stephen Mitchell translation. And then we'll do just like we did last week and go through three different translations side by side and look at the annotations accordingly. Success is as dangerous as failure. Hope is as hollow as fear. What does it mean that success is as dangerous as failure? Whether you go up the ladder or down it, your position is shaky. When you stand with your 2 feet on the ground, you will always keep your balance. What does it mean that hope is as hollow as fear? Hope and fear are both phantoms that arise from thinking of the self. When we don't see the self as self, what do we have to fear? See the world as yourself. Have faith in the way things are. Love the world as yourself. Then you can care for all things. Look, and it can't be seen. Listen, and it can't be heard. Reach, and it can't be grasped. Above it isn't bright. Below it isn't dark. Seamless, unnameable. It returns to the realm of nothing. Form that includes all forms. Image without an image. Subtle, beyond all conception. Approach it, and there is no beginning. Follow it, and there is no end. You can't know it, but you can be it, at ease in your own life. Just realize where you come from. This is the essence of wisdom. Mm. The ancient masters were profound and subtle. Their wisdom was unfathomable. There is no way to describe it. All we can describe is their appearance. They were careful, as someone crossing an iced over stream, alert as a warrior in enemy territory, courteous as a guest, fluid as melting ice, shapeable as a block of wood, receptive as a valley, clear as a glass of water. Do you have the patience to wait till your mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving till the right action arises by itself? The master doesn't seek fulfillment, not seeking, not expecting. She is present and can welcome all things. All righty, last one, number 16. Empty your mind of all thoughts. Let your heart be at peace. Watch the turmoil of beings, but contemplate their return. Each separate being in the universe returns to the common source. Returning to the source is serenity. If you don't realize the source, you stumble in confusion and sorrow. When you realize where you come from, you naturally become tolerant, disinterested, amused, kind hearted as a grandmother, dignified as a king, immersed in the wonder of the Tao. You can deal with whatever life brings you, and when death comes, you are ready. Okay, so you think it's totally different from the Bible. Yes and no. I feel like there's a lot, at least of Christ's teachings, that are very much in line with this. And I would even say that some of the Kabbalistic teachings that arose out of Judaism pre-Christianity and thereafter, I think that a lot of these themes kind of ring through in a variety of religions and belief systems. Not all, but There are some things. I think there was a lot of heavy, like patriarchal kind of influence on the later translations of the Bible. Oh, what part? What part are you referring to, Katie? I know that popped up right around chapter 14, but I wasn't sure exactly which part you were referring to. Oh, look and it can't be seen, listen and it can't be heard. Okay, all right. Well, remember, in this instance, it's describing the Tao. So it's saying that the Tao is not something that we can perceive with our physical senses. It's beyond that, right? Um, but I mean, is that really that much different from having eyes to see and ears to hear? You're having eyes to see and ears to hear is the ability to discern that which is spiritual and that which is not, or that which is good and that which is evil, that which is right and that which is wrong, righteous and unrighteous, whatever. Your ability to perceive that. Oh, yeah. Uh, um, well, as you read these things, though, like I said, they're not far off from what Christ taught. The wording is different, but the concepts are the same. So lean into that. Pay attention to the differences. Pay attention to the similarities too. It's pretty cool. I try to point them out when I can, when they're blatant anyway. So you'll see that in here. All right, so we're gonna go back, and since we already read through the Stephen Mitchell translation, I will not be reading through the entirety of the blue text because we've already read it. But we're gonna go through and break it down piece by piece in the annotated and explained version and cross-reference that with the other translations and the um, annotations that come with these. Okay, so favor and disgrace make one fearful. The greatest misfortune is the self. What does favor and disgrace make one fearful mean? Favor is high, disgrace is low. Having it makes one fearful. Losing it makes one fearful. This is favor and disgrace make one fearful. So this in the Sam Torod translation that we have here, it had the heading of avoid extremes. So these favor and disgrace kind of being like polar opposites, neither of which are great. You don't need to have, too much of anything. Just like this pink text says, flattery and disgrace are both to be feared, just as overeating and starvation are both harmful to the body. Flattery is fattening to the spirit, disgrace is emaciating. So neither extreme is ideal. We don't want to be compromising our soul with too much praise, which then leads to pride, or too much disgrace, which then leads to self-loathing. Exactly, that middle path. Again and again and again, it comes up. And see, I have it like this, but isn't this the exact same thing as this, just in a different expression? Right? It's all about that balance. Okay. Let's go look at the note real quick. And I love this here because you and I, especially Katie, we have been really exploring this idea of hope maybe being something that isn't as good as it sounds, right? And I love the way it put this. Yeah, that's my Libra self. I always look for the balance, but But yeah, hope is as hollow as fear. That one kind of, I had to sit with that one for a minute because I agree. I think it is. I think that knowing or believing that something is absolutely going to happen versus, well, I hope it is. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel there's a difference there. So for that first section, we may not wish to admit it, but most of us care very much what other people think. We fret over positive opinions as well as negative ones. It isn't just the prospect of being ridiculed that makes us anxious. We also feel anxiety over not receiving accolades that we feel we deserve. It cuts both ways. That was interesting. Like, we shouldn't be too worried about getting praise or opinions and judgments of other people. Neither of them are really that great. We don't need to be puffing up our ego, right? The greatest misfortune is the self, which we're going to get into next. What does the greatest misfortune is the self mean? The reason I have great misfortune is that I have the self. If I have no self, what misfortune do I have? That's an interesting thought. Think about it. If I did not exist, then I would have no troubles, right? I wouldn't exist. I have no self, then I have no misfortune to worry about, right? But here's the thing, can you do that and still be alive? Yeah, yes, you can. Through this process of being able to see yourself as the world, which we'll get into in just a second. But first, let's look over here. Over concern is just as harmful as disregard. Treat yourself well, but don't pamper yourself excessively. Like, take care of your being, but don't make it all that life is about, right? You can't, you have to be just as willing to take care of other people as you are to take care of yourself. Um, oh yeah, I forgot. Always keep your balance. Um, how did I don't know how I got to that. Okay. So, well, let me go back here. Let me do this. The self refers to the ego, which we can see is at the heart of this issue. An inflated sense of self importance causes us to become attached to the praise and approval of our peers. It also causes us to fear disapproval and rejection. This is why Lao Tzu sees it as the leading source of adversity and trouble, the greatest misfortune. The greatest misfortune is having a self. Moderation and middle path strikes again. Yep. Yep, Katie. All right. So, one who values the self as the world can be given the world. One who sees the self as the world can be entrusted with the world. If rulers treat the people in the same way, neither too soft nor too hard, they are worthy to be trusted with authority. So that middle path gives you the ability to be trusted with authority, right? See the world as yourself, have faith in the way things are, love the world as yourself, then you can care for all things. Okay. Now, I don't know why this says that. It's supposed to say Judeo. Eh, stupid autocorrect. Okay. But the Judeo-Christian beliefs the world is considered to be in opposition to God and Jesus, right? The world is not usually something that we want to be able to have control of or we want to have authority over. Is humankind then a divine creation of God or God's enemy? The reason I'm asking this is because I looked up the definition of the word world. And all this time, I've thought of the world as like our earth and everything on it. But this is a very interesting word because in the Old English, it means human existence, the affairs of life, also a long period of time, also the human race, mankind, humanity, the age of man in High German. So, life on Earth, that's really interesting because, you know, the world has this connotation of negativity to it in Judeo-Christian beliefs. We don't want to be like the world. We want to be in the world, but not of the world, you know. But this is saying if you love yourself and you love the world, meaning everyone in the world, all of the humanity, right? If you love all of humanity as much as you love yourself, then you're worthy to be the steward of it. You're worthy to rule over it, right? And that's a pretty tall order. So that's where my question comes in. Is humankind a divine creation of God or God's enemy? Because I don't think humankind can be both. I think that we can't say that we're made in the image of God in one breath, but then also be that which is the villain. I don't know. Any thoughts, Katie? I know you're probably tending to your monkeys, but
Mhm.
okay, that's fine. Think about that one. Um, and if you're watching after the live, you're watching the replay, please leave your thoughts in the comments. All right. So this is the recipe for managing the ego. Note that Lao Tzu does not advocate that we should be completely without ego or that we should eliminate it. We need at least a moderate sense of self to function in society. Therefore, it's perfectly fine to value and love the ego as long as we don't focus so much on ourselves that we neglect the world. As Tao cultivators, we love and value the world. Our caution against the sensory stimuli of the material world does not make us distant or uncaring. We can be joyously involved with the world and yet totally unaffected by its temptations and distractions. Okay, you good?
Yeah.
Okay, you need to take a minute. Okay. Look at it, it cannot be seen. It is called colorless. Listen to it, it cannot be heard. It is called noiseless. Oh, sorry, I lost my place. Reach for it, it cannot be held. It is called formless. These three cannot be completely unraveled, so they are combined into one. Above it, not bright. Below it, not dark. Continuing endlessly cannot be named. It returns back into nothingness. Thus, it is called the form of the formless, the image of the imageless. This is called enigmatic. Confront it. Its front cannot be seen. Follow it. Its back cannot be seen. Wield the Tao of the ancients to manage the existence of today. One can know the ancient beginning. It is called the Tao axiom. So, this is a description of the Tao as best we are able to describe it. We cannot see it. We cannot put words to it. We cannot put form to it. It is formless, but also gives birth to all form. Okay. It has no beginning. It has no end. It has no front or back or bottom or top or left or right. It's just everything, all expansive. I love Stephen Mitchell's version of it, though. He says, you can't know it, but you can be it at ease in your own life. So let's go ahead and look at some of these annotations. The Tao cannot be seen, heard, or touched because it is metaphysical in nature. Because it has no physical manifestations, it cannot be detected by any of our physical senses. For verse 2, I guess you could say, these three cannot be completely unraveled, so they are combined into one. This means the characteristics of being colorless, noiseless, and formless must all be true. None of them stands alone. Together, they are central to the concept of the Tao. The Trinity, yeah, that's interesting. I was also thinking faith, hope, and love. So it's very interesting that you had that idea of the Trinity as well. I think you're onto something there. Um, mm, nice. Brightness and darkness only have meaning in something that can be seen. Because the Tao is invisible, it cannot be either bright or dark. Heading back to verse 4, continuing endlessly cannot be named, it returns back into nothingness. Thus, it is called the form of the formless, the image of the imageless. Although the Tao is immaterial, it gives all material things solid reality. Thus, the world we observe is the visible image of the imageless Tao. Similarly, all the things we can touch and hold are the tangible manifestations of the formless Tao. Everything was created out of the Tao. Okay, everything. But they don't, none of those things fully embody the Tao. Okay. Um, Number 5. This is called enigmatic. Confront it. Its front cannot be seen. Follow it. Its back cannot be seen. The Tao is infinite in extent, not only in itself, but also in its functions. It has no beginning and no end, so we cannot see its front or back. Concepts like front and back simply do not apply to something so utterly beyond limits. And finally, one can know the ancient beginning. It is called the Tao axiom. This sounds like Lao Tzu is talking about us. We are indeed wielding the ancient Tao to manage modern life and discovering that it works very well indeed. The sun rises today just as it did thousands of years ago. Similarly, the Tao holds true for us just as it held true for the ancients. We can even say that the Tao works better now than it did long ago because we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can take advantage of the work that ancient sages have done to advance our understanding. We can see farther because we have the good fortune of standing on the shoulders of giants. Does the sun still rise the same as it did? I don't know. I don't know. Are you still just keeping track of where it comes up in the sky? Telling you, that was crazy business. Um, so this is just another translation. It is unseen because it is colorless. It is unheard because it is silent. If you try to grasp it, it will elude you because it has no form. Because of its diverse qualities, it cannot be summarized, yet it comprises an essential unity. On the surface, it appears incomprehensible, but in the depths, it reveals itself. It has been nameless forever. It appears and then disappears. It is the form of the formless, the image of the imageless. Its face cannot be seen in front, nor its back from behind. No one knows where it came from or where it is going. Yet, by holding fast to the ancient Tao, the wise may grasp the present because they understand the past. This is a clue to the Tao. You need to go hop on the bike for a little bit.
Sorry.
You're all right. I know you're tired. All right. Number 15. Any questions or thoughts so far? Okay. Number 15. The Tao masters of antiquity, subtle wanders through mystery, depths that cannot be discerned. Because one cannot discern them, therefore one is forced to describe the appearance. Hesitant, like crossing a wintry river, cautious, like fearing four neighbors, solemn, like a guest, loose, like ice about to melt, genuine, like plain wood, open, like a valley, opaque, like muddy water. Who can be muddled yet desist? In stillness, gradually become clear? Who can be serene yet persist? In motion, gradually come alive? One who holds this Tao does not wish to be overfilled because one is not overfilled. Therefore, one can preserve and not create anew. Okay, so we'll get to some of these other things in a moment. Let's go over here. So, the concept of emulation is central to the Tao. The ancient masters recognized that they did not understand the Tao completely, but that they could learn from it by emulating nature. We can learn from them in the same way. So, just like we talk about things like water and how we are meant to ebb and flow, just like water, and have peace and stillness, find the path of least resistance, flow with life, this was a way that people learned how to live because they just watched nature and they could see that there was a harmony to it, a rhythm. And they followed this for centuries. And then, we got into modern times and we enacted calendars and clocks and things we didn't need because we had the stars to look at. But we don't look at the stars anymore because we're all trapped in tiny boxes on a hillside, tiny boxes made of ticky tacky. It's obnoxious how much wisdom we have lost because we are not as connected to nature as we used to be. And we could learn a thing or two from those who are or have been. Uh, yeah, well, um, I think we do need to be living our lives with intention to be able to break away from that, to be more connected with nature and, intentionally break away from being trapped behind little screens, trapped in our little boxes, you know, going out and being wild. Yeah, you do. You're right. I love that, Katie. Katie says you have to live intentionally to reconnect. Everything, you mean everything in our modern society is meant to disconnect. Yeah, yeah, definitely. But see, we're not meant to be disconnected, not from one another. And I mean, I feel like I've seen that played out very clearly in the telepathic realm, being able to telepathically communicate with my friends has been astonishing to me. I love it. And I think that that's the way we were always meant to be. And, now we're so separated because we're stuck behind these little freaking screens. Drives me nuts. All right, number two. The ancient masters were not given to frivolous or reckless acts. They handled responsibilities with serious regard. They resolved issues by carefully considering all sides without jumping to conclusions. Okay, so a couple of things here. Um, they handled their responsibilities and they took them seriously. Oh, I'm responsible for something. I'm going to take that very seriously. I'm going to do my very best with that. They, excuse me, they worked to resolve things through being able to look at things in a multifaceted way, right? We're using discernment just like the masters. And they didn't jump to conclusions, which I think generally a lot of us have a tendency to do. I know I do. Sometimes I jump to conclusions for no good reason. Um, well, of course, that's why all the mental illnesses are off the hook. That's exactly why. Because people are disconnected from themselves, from each other, from nature. Yeah, well, it's all ego and programming. You're right. That when we jump to conclusions, I think it's a lot of projection too. Oh, well, if you did that, you must have done this, right? That's what I would have done. Not everyone's like you. The masters were careful, but not uptight. They went about their activities with a certain looseness, which took nothing away from their concern for others and for doing a good job. They could be relaxed without being lax and thus achieve excellence effortlessly. They could be unattached without being uncaring and thus focus on the process instead of the end result. Love that. Love that. I see you love that too, Katie. Focusing on the process instead of the end result. It is about the journey, not the destination. It is about every day taking another step, being a bit better, being a bit further along your journey, making the progress that you need to make. Yeah. Mm, love it. Okay. So remember the comment about plain wood? Plain wood is a reference to simplicity. By keeping everything simple, the ancient masters experienced the profound happiness of the uncomplicated present. So it didn't have to be fancy, it just had to be simple. Goodness. Yes, KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. um, Number five, the ancient sages were known for their openness. They gladly considered new ideas without dismissing anything out of hand. They treated everyone, even difficult people, with infinite patience. Whoo! That is a talent to cultivate. Right? Yeah. Um, Goodness gracious, give me a second. No, it's all right. I keep yawning and I want to just like get a good one. Somebody's car alarm's going off outside. Being opaque means these matters never put themselves on display, despite their spiritual refinements. They had no interest in showing off their brilliance. I'm sorry, I said these matters. I mean, these masters. They had no interest in showing off their brilliance. So they weren't out there like, hey, look at how awesome I am. Look at how amazing I am. Look at all the work I've done. They were just doing the work and living it out. The image of muddy water becoming clear refers to the gradual revelation of a master's inner qualities. The masters had tremendous depth, so it would take time for people to really know them. Tremendous depth. Is that you? Is that why you're such an enigma? Maybe. Um, so I love this image though. And actually, let's go back because this part really, really struck me. So he says here, receptive as a valley, clear as a glass of water. Do you have the patience to wait till your mud settles and the water is clear? If I go outside and I grab, a plastic water bottle and I scoop it down into the river and I put the lid on and I shake it up, it's going to be a muddy mess. But then I leave it sit on the table and I come back in an hour and all the detritus has fallen down to the bottom and the water is clear. Now, I'm a big fan of a watch pot never boils. I believe that to be true. But I mean, if you're patient, can that include walking away to do something else and then coming back later? I don't know. But do you have the patience to wait until the mud settles so that you can see clearly?
Yes.
Yeah. Depends on the moment, Katie says. Well, I mean, to clarify muddy waters, you must hold them still and let things settle. So sometimes when things seem unclear, when things seem chaotic, we have to stop and sit with it and be quiet.
All the patience in the world with crypto.
All the patience in the world with crypto. Well, and I mean this is for everything in life. It does take a lot of practice. It does to just to be able to quiet your mind. Because think about it. You sit down in meditation and then you have these thoughts coming through your head. That's like the muddy water. It's when you finally kind of like bring it down to a stillness, right? Water that looks like a sheet of glass. You bring it to a stillness, and then you get clarity, you get understanding. But a lot of people just don't have the patience for that. And well, that's probably because it does take practice, right, Katie? Can you remain unmoving till the right action arises by itself? Do you have something you want to add?
Yes, patience makes
I think patience makes it sweeter. I think when you have to wait for something truly good, it makes it better. Well, I don't know.
That's how
Everybody's
I look
different.
at it.
Yeah.
Makes it look better.
Mm. So, answer this question then. Can you remain unmoving till the right action arises by itself? Or, like this guy says, um, who can be serene yet persist in motion gradually come alive? Can you be in the midst of progress? So I gave this example to the kids. I said, okay, you're running a race and your job is to make it to the finish line. And you're running, 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 and you see someone who's fallen off the track and they're hurt. And you stop to help them, but now you've been diverted. Now you're off the track, right? Oh, you can get back on the track. You've lost some time, but you're still heading forward, right? But then you see someone else who is like, hey, wait up, wait up. So you slow down so that they can run alongside you too, right? But every time you're kind of veering off the path and losing focus. So you're not going to really see that right action. But when you are focused, okay, there's the finish line, I see it, the next steps in front of you are going to be very obvious. If you're looking behind you because someone's like, hey, wait up, you're going to trip and fall off that darn path because you're not paying attention. You're not going to see the next step, right? At some point, you have to realize that you're pushing forwards towards a goal or whatever, and in so doing you're not allowing other people to drag you off that path, to tell you that you can't do it or tell you that it's not possible or tell you that, oh, there's a million other people doing it or whatever the case may be. You can't be moved by that in either direction. You can't be moved. You shouldn't be moved by anything. And that doesn't mean that you're cold and uncaring. It just means that you're not bothered. Yes, having your peace within. Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. This is that Christian concept of peace that surpasses all understanding. And what does that look like? Well, it looks like you not having to seek fulfillment. A lot of the problems that we have, a lot of the arguments that we have with other people are because we feel that they need to fulfill some need in us, right? I mean, that's where I've been at. um, controlling the inside regardless of the outside. Exactly. We can't be seeking fulfillment outside of ourselves. We cannot be expecting things from other people or our environments or our investments or our efforts or whatever. We just have to just live in that present moment and just be. You're present. You welcome all things, anything that's good or bad or otherwise. It doesn't matter because you're not looking at it that way. You're not judging it. You're not putting value to it of it being good or bad. It just is, and it's happening, and you're like, okay, cool, let it happen because I might learn something great from this. I might have some radical change from this. I might be able to do something new or succeed in some new way because of this experience, right? Mm. Okay, where are we at? We read through all of these, right? Mm. Did we get down to 8 and 9? Forgive me. Oh, I don't think so. The serenity of a sage can be mistaken for passivity or apathy. It may be difficult for people to understand how anyone can embody tranquility and dynamism simultaneously. So this is not being an unfeeling, cold, callous individual. It's not being someone who has no emotion at all. It's someone who has that dynamic ability to interact with their world through the power of their emotions, but can control those emotions enough to not let the emotions take the reins and can act out of sensibility and honor. That I think is being both dynamic and yet also embodying tranquility simultaneously. The ancient masters were therefore never full of themselves. Like them, we can cultivate quietly, preserving a sense of calmness without drawing attention to ourselves or creating a disturbance. So we can just be calm all by ourselves. We don't need to make anybody else aware of it. We don't need to be like, look at me, I'm a guru, I'm amazing and smarter than you, right? We just need to be. Okay. We're already to page 7. See? Moving on through this. If you guys have any questions or comments, so please just, you can just whack me in the head and I'll stop. You can raise your hand because you can't whack me in the head. All right. Attain the ultimate emptiness. Hold on to the truest tranquility. The myriad things are all active. I therefore watch their return. Everything flourishes. Each returns to its root. Returning to the root is called tranquility. Tranquility is called returning to one's nature. Returning to one's nature is called constancy. Knowing constancy is called clarity. Not knowing constancy, one recklessly causes trouble. Knowing constancy is acceptance. Acceptance is impartiality. Impartiality is sovereign. Sovereign is heaven. Heaven is Tao. Tao is eternal. The self is no more without danger. Okay, so this is fascinating to me. I absolutely love this. Let's go look at the annotations. Everything in nature exhibits a cyclic pattern: the changing seasons, the tides, the sun, the moon. Objective consciousness, yes. All living things flourish and eventually return to their origin in the recurrent cycles of life. When we quiet the internal chatter and bear silent witness to the miraculous natural processes at work, we strengthen our connection with the empty, yet incredibly prolific creativity of the Tao. It's interesting that they chose the word empty here because I feel again that idea of the abyss being a realm of infinite possibilities. It's very strange that that is both empty and yet so full of possibility that it cannot even be comprehended. I just find that so fascinating. Anyway, I digress. This is a precise description of what happens when we feel our essential oneness with nature, like atoms. Yeah. 99.99999% space. Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the thing. Um, so this is a precise description of what happens when we feel our essential oneness with nature. In that oneness, we find the gift of tranquility. We discover that nature is not merely all around us, but also inside of us. Human nature is but a microcosm of the greater nature. The realization of this constant, unchanging principle brings us spiritual clarity. This clarity cannot be described in words and must be experienced firsthand. Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I mean, look at it. Like I said earlier today, this we are just cells in a divine body. Think about it. All of the trillions of cells that make up your body. You're not just you. You're carrying around all sorts of critters as part of your being. And then you have trillions of cells.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, Tao cultivators accept reality as it is, rather than as they wish it to be. The troubles we encounter in life and the pain associated with them are caused by the disparity between our expectations and the way things are. The more stubbornly we refuse to accept, the more we suffer. Ouch. I'm going to read that again. The troubles we encounter in life and the pain associated with them are caused by the disparity between our expectations and the way things are. The more stubbornly we refuse to accept, the more we suffer. So if we just accept the way we are right now, if we just accept exactly things exactly the way they are and don't put any expectations on them, then we won't suffer. Then we won't have pain. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's no, it's no coincidence that all of this is coming up in the timing that it is, that, after we've had these discussions about dropping expectations and not needing to label things or put titles on things. Mm-hmm. It's no coincidence at all, and you know it. To be sovereign is to possess authentic power. Yeah, let it go for the new moon. Amen. Not power over other people, but power over oneself. It is the profound realization that we are ultimately responsible for creating our own reality. We have the ultimate authority over our own destiny. Our sacred task in life is to learn how to exercise this sovereign power wisely. This has been a major topic for me. This has been something where anything that I see that I do not feel I resonate with out in the world, I do not consent. I revoke any consent. I revoke any sort of allowing influence in my life or any attachment therein. No, you may not have my energy. Oh, there's new mandates being proposed? Not on my timeline, there's not. Oh, there's a triple hurricane coming for your coast? Not on my time, there's not. No, I do not consent. And when we take that power back, good heavens, what in the world could we do on this earth? We are creators simply with our thoughts alone. Careful what you're thinking about, because you're creating something, good, bad, or otherwise. Seek an open mind, the ideal of all vacuity. Seek composure, the essence of tranquility. All things are in process, rising and returning. Plants blossom for a season, then return to the root. In returning to the root, we find tranquility. This leads to our destiny, which is eternity. To know eternity is enlightenment. To ignore eternity is to invite calamity. Knowing eternity means seeing the big picture. Seeing the big picture is broad minded. Breadth of vision brings nobility. Nobility is close to divinity. The Tao is divine. The Tao is eternal. Death is not to be feared. Okay? Death is not to be feared. And when the self is no more, then no danger can come to you. When you are no longer worried about yourself, oh no, what's going to happen to me? Then no danger comes to you because then you're not drawing that into you. John 16:33. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. That's what came to me on this one. So you have the potential and the possibility to overcome the world, to overcome all of your programming, to overcome all of the collective doubts and fears, to overcome your own limited thinking and self sabotage. This idea of returning to the root. This is returning to your authentic nature, going back to who you really are. You are at peace with yourself. You are one with nature. You are constant and consistent, which provides you clarity, which leaves no room for recklessness, which provides you with the ability to accept whatever comes with impartiality because you're not concerned with whether or not it needs the label of good, bad, or otherwise. It just is. And then you become king or queen of your domain and you are the sovereign ruler of your life. And this is heaven on earth at any time. This is what the Hindus call samadhi, being so positively in control of your mind that it cannot be influenced by anything external. Camera's watching you. All right. Well, that's it. Any thoughts? Any questions?
Sounds quick.
It was quick. It was 2 hours.
Huh?
Since I hit the well, no, maybe not for the recording. I don't know how long it's been recording, but it's been up for 2 hours. Maybe not. Maybe it's only been recording for about an hour. Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, that is all. Oops. It resonates in every fiber. Good, good. I'm glad. This was a very powerful lesson for me this week. I wrestled with it a bit and then I rested on it a bit. And it really just set well with my soul. So, yeah, very relatable, definitely tangible, practical. Makes sense to me. You know me, I'm a logic person. I like the way it's laid out. And I do enjoy being able to study these in some different translations with you guys because I feel like it just kind of adds some depth. Did you notice the blossom there, Katie? I feel like that was for you. Plants blossom for a season and return to the root. Yeah, I thought so. All righty. Well, we're gonna end the recording here and come into our prayer time.